Hey guys, welcome to the channel and welcome back to another video. Today, guys, I want to talk about the fact that the Nvidia stock has tumbled. And I want to talk about why, what's going on there, what happened there, what the potential reason for, and what it means to you as an investor. And then I also want to talk about this DOJ subpoena that supposedly happened, but didn't really happen. I'm going to try to update you guys because all day today we had heard that Nvidia had been subpoenaed in terms of by the Department of Justice, right? The federal government. However, we learned just about 3 o'clock this afternoon, towards the end of the day, that it wasn't really a subpoena at all, but we'll talk about that a little later, guys. Give me a thumbs up and let me know you can hear me okay. Just give me that thumbs up in the chat real quick. Hey, Walamala's here. Orlando, good to have you, Orlando. Thank you so much for being here. So let's jump into the fact that Nvidia was down nearly 9% or a little over 9% yesterday. Now, I didn't come on and do a live about it, but Nvidia was down nearly 9% yesterday, or a little bit over 9%, and it went down further today. Today, Nvidia closed right at, and I want to kind of do this update for you guys because I know a lot of folks in here are Nvidia folks and have Nvidia or are thinking about Nvidia or have it in their ETF or have it as a single stock. So I want to kind of just update you guys where we are with this thing. As you can see, it closed today at 106.21, slightly up after hours, but it was down 1.66% today. Over the last 5 days, Nvidia's been down by about 17%. So down quite a bit over the last 5 days. And for some of you, that's troubling. For some of you, you're like, oh my gosh, what's happening? What did I do wrong? I shouldn't have bought this stock, et cetera, et cetera. But be patient. Just be patient, right? Yesterday, Nvidia had the worst day ever. This is important for you guys to know, and I'm jumping right into it because I want to keep this to a fairly short video or live. Nvidia yesterday had the absolute worst day ever in the history of the stock market as we measure that by in terms of loss of total market value, market share, right? Right, market cap wise. Yesterday, Nvidia's share price dropped by 9.5%, which means Nvidia yesterday lost about $279 billion in value, market cap value, in one day. Yesterday, 279. I want to explain this up front so you guys can understand the importance of these wild swings with Nvidia over the last several days. Okay. It lost $279 billion in value in one day yesterday. That was the most any company in the history of the stock market has ever lost in a single day. Okay. The previous record, I think, was 2022, and it was Meta. Meta lost about $240 billion in a day in 2022. So today we have Nvidia, or yesterday we had Nvidia losing $279 billion worth of market cap, biggest ever. And I also read something interesting about that. It said 27 companies in the world there's only 27 companies in the world in the entire planet, 27 companies that are worth as much as Nvidia lost in value yesterday. There's only 27 other companies in the world that are worth $279 billion. And that's just the amount Nvidia lost yesterday. Jaw dropping, right? The $279 billion that Nvidia lost yesterday is bigger than the entire market cap size of McDonald's. Okay. It's bigger than the entire market cap size of Pepsi, right? So it was a huge loss yesterday. Matter of fact, they said Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia, lost $10 billion on yesterday. He lost $10 billion in one day. Now, the interesting thing is the market dropped, the stock itself in terms of price, it dropped again today. Since June 18th, what is that? June, July, August, about 2.5 months, Nvidia is down 20% since June 18th. Now, don't get me wrong. Microsoft is down probably what, 11 or 12%. TSMC is down probably 8 or 9, or no, about 17, 18%. Of course, we know Intel is like down 60% for the year. Crazy, right? But the point is, I could go on, but the point is that Nvidia, what is happening is something that I want to have this quick conversation about, because we got a lot of folks out there that are Nvidia investors, right? So it just kind of, that just gives you an idea where we are with Nvidia. Look at that ginormous run up and then the run down since late August, a run down in the last 10, 15 days or so. 6 months, we see roll, up, down, up, down, down, up, but back down, right? So we see a lot of volatility in this stock, right? So let's have this quick conversation about what in the world is going on with this stock. My goodness. Khalif is here. Tamika's in the house. Good to have you. Robert from San Jose is here. Appreciate you being here. We got Validated is here. Good to have you. Mrs. Moore's in the house. Thank you for being here, Mrs. Moore. Appreciate you. Chewy's in the house. Good to have you here. Appreciate you being here. Let's see. Watching from New Zealand, Manuel. Good to have you here, Manuel. Thank you so much. Manuel said I'm going to keep DCA and into NVIDIA. Nothing wrong with that. Let's see here. Just started, never too late. The Willie Wilo. Glad to have you here. Thank you so much. Clint Perry's in here. Good to have you. D'Angelo. We got a lot of folks in here, guys. Appreciate you being here. Joseph from Nashville, Arkansas is here too. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging in there. Nigel from up in Canada, Winnipeg, Canada. I don't even know where Winnipeg, Canada is. I need to look on my map. Hey, Juanita's here as well. Good to have you here. So this plunge, this tumbling of Nvidia's share price could be caused by a lot of different things. Perhaps a broader sell-off, some what some investors are calling risky assets. And I don't know if you guys know, and I may do a video about this, a live tomorrow about this, but there's a lot of super investors that don't invest in Nvidia, right? They just have stayed away from Nvidia and have not jumped on the board of the bandwagon called Nvidia. But with Nvidia seeing some of this incredible drop, it's fair to assume, guys, it is fair to assume that one of the reasons Nvidia is tumbling has to do with some of this news that came out about the DOJ investigation, right? This DOJ investigation. I put quotations around that because there's a reason, and I'm not sure what's going on with this stock, guys. I'm really not sure what's happening with Nvidia right now, to be honest with you. There was just an article all yesterday. We reported yesterday from Bloomberg News that the DOJ, Department of Justice, the federal government, had issued a subpoena to Nvidia. But there was an article or 2 or 3 or 5 being reported right now, just about a couple of hours ago, that says that report may have been false. The fact that no, there is no subpoena going on right now, right? But it's overall, here's some things we should know about this stock, right? This company. Biden administration, the current presidential administration here in America, has sort of been, targeting these big techs. We know that, launching probes and charges and trying to make sure any AI company didn't get too big, right? So the truth may be the fact that this, I don't know if this is true or not, but the investigation, supposed subpoena, it could have been just an honest mistake by Bloomberg. It could have been more. I just don't know. The question is, should you as an Nvidia investor be concerned about any long-term problems, implications, what's going on? I'm going to talk briefly about what that DOJ probe is, right? But, should you be worried about any long-term problems? Is there any risk from this investigation, perhaps soon to be investigation by the DOJ? Right? Now, is it just playing in the background? It's not a big deal. It's just a little noise because DOJ does this all the time with companies that get big. We just don't know. Right? We know with Nvidia what we have. Excellent numbers, Blackwell system coming out later in the wintertime when they're going to make a big fuss, big noise. New earnings report coming out in November. Our last earnings report last week was wonderful, but it's netted in a down stock. Look, if DOJ is going to investigate Nvidia, and that happens, and granted, it happens all the time when you have a company that's growing in the space and has 60, 70, 80, 90% of market share in a space so important as semiconductors and data centers, you're going to have this happen, right? Remember, Nvidia lost more. The amount of money Nvidia lost yesterday was there's only 27 companies on the planet that are worth more than they lost in one day. You know there's going to be investigations, complaints from smaller companies, etc. Right? So it's not unusual that this is happening. What's unusual is the fact that they had great earnings report, but the stock has dipped and lost more money than ever before since the great earnings report. And you don't have a bunch of super investors. Sure, you might have Pelosi, but you don't have a bunch of super investors. Super investors are people that have to report when they have assets under management of over $100 million. That's what a super investor is. And very few, I say very few, a lot of the super investors, they don't touch Nvidia. When you go to Datarama, which is a site I like to look up, when you go to Datarama and you pull up, all of the big boys and big ladies, whoever they are on that list, a lot of them, they don't have, I just looked it up last night and I said, okay, what are the top, I looked at the top 10 new companies that these super investors are investing in. These super investors have to report every quarter, 4 times a year on a Form 13F. They have to report to the SEC what they're investing in, what are their holdings. And when you go to Datarama, it'll show you the top 10 holdings, the top 10 new holdings of these super investors. Well, when you look at the top 100 holdings of these investors, Nvidia is like number 40 or number 50 on the list. A lot of them got Apple. A lot of them got Microsoft. A lot of them got the big boys, but a lot of them do not have Nvidia, right? So you have to start wondering and asking yourself, what, all these things are coming to play at one time. And do we have people in the market that are manipulating this stock, right? Because some strange things are happening, right? But it's not unusual that the DOJ is going to look at a company like Nvidia and start probing, right? But this is why Nvidia is not for the faint at heart, guys, right? It's not for the faint, not just Nvidia, but whenever you invest in a volatile stock like tech stocks, you're going to see some up and down. Maybe not these big swings, but you're going to see some up and down. Maybe if you can't stomach that, individual stock picking is not for you. If you've done all your research on Nvidia and you see that, wow, there's all these outside forces messing with this stock, and you can't stomach it because you got $20,000, $40,000, $100,000 in there, $500,000, maybe individual stocks is not for you. And because I know that there's some panic setting in with some of you guys, flat out, let's keep it real. Let's keep it 100, right? There's people who bought into Nvidia late, and I say late meaning May, June, July, and they put a whole lot in there. And now those folks, and some of you may be right here in this chat, you guys are sitting on losses right now. And you've probably been if you bought Nvidia at 125, 130, 135, you've been sitting on losses for the last month or two, couple months, right? So the question becomes, are you panicking because of the hysteria? Hysteria, right? But Nvidia as a company, as a stock, is a strong, strong reminder of how patience and strategy can be critical when you're investing in individual single stocks. Look, what did Buffett say? Buffett said the stock market transfers money from impatient people to patient people, right? Being patient, it's cliche-ish in the investment world, but putting it into practice is challenging, especially when you're talking about a company like Nvidia, when a lot of you guys were like chomping at the bit, throwing your whole savings in there, pulling out $20,000 to go put in Nvidia, right? You got to be really careful about that, guys. Really, really careful, right? It's been a rage. We know it's been a rage, but think about Nvidia like this, guys. Think about Nvidia like this. Imagine a store that triples its prices on everything, all the goods and services in a year. If a store, I don't care, any store selling any item, if they tripled their prices, right? If they tripled their prices in a year, what would everybody typically do? Everybody would run to the competitor who didn't triple their prices in a year and look elsewhere for better deals. That's what happens with a store. But the funny thing about the stock marketing when you pick individual stocks is that usually the opposite happens when you're picking stocks, right? Right? If somebody triples their price in a year, let's say a stock triples, everybody starts looking at the stock and starts buying the stock like a super micro, or everybody starts buying this, a KLA, whatever it could be. When you're buying a stock, the whole thing I just mentioned flips around. Everybody comes to the stock when the stock triples in price. But when you buying a mouse or eyeglasses or anything like that, people run to the competitor and leave. But when it comes to stocks, that attracts people, right? So it's kind of strange, and this is why you got to pull yourself away from, if you want to be what Benjamin Graham, right, calls an intelligent investor, you got to pull yourself away a little bit from your natural reaction to the stock market. The things that come natural, your natural behaviors that are human behaviors. Oh, you see something go up, wow, let's go get it. No, you got to pull yourself back from reacting in a way that you would normally act over a stock like this, right? This is why a lot of people lose a lot of money in the stock market, because they're going with their natural instincts and they're trying to go with their natural instincts in the stock picking, but that ain't how you do stocks, right? You go against the grain, against what you would naturally do as a human, right? As what happens with stocks is, as the stock price goes up, a lot of times, so does greed. Greed. And what happens is people start chasing higher returns because they see a stock price go up and up and up, and wow, it must be a great company. And then by the time you get in it, it's almost peaked, right? But if people are following their natural human instincts in the stock market, you're going to be chasing higher and higher returns, chasing the item in the store that just tripled in price. That's why you got to be careful. What did another Buffett? Buffett said, "Be careful." No, he said, "Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful." Huh? Right now, everybody is starting to have a little bit of panic set in, a little bit of fear. Not everybody, because there's some real savvy folks, especially here in the chat, who understand the whole process. But big picture, a lot of folks are being greedy. A lot of folks are fearful. Now may be the time to be a little bit greedy in terms of purchasing, right? Remember, you don't lose money until you sell, right? So if you bought in at 130, do not panic and sell at 105. Don't panic and sell at 105, whatever you do. Send this message out, share this video with whoever you want to share it with, but tell them, do not be fearful, right? Remember, stocks aren't just numbers on the screen. They're tied to companies run by real human beings and real people, et cetera, right? So you got two choices, and we're going to get to the DOJ, the subpoena. We're going to get to I'm going to show you the article, what I read, and say, wait a minute, something's wrong here. You face a couple of choices. Hold on to Nvidia, right? Believing that it's going to bounce back and AI has a future, et cetera, et cetera. Or you can sell at a loss if you bought it above 105, 106, what it is right now. And I'm saying, hold, be a long-term person in this. Don't get fearful. Don't get all uptight. Don't get mad. Don't get upset. Relax. Be patient. It's cool, right? I'm not a day trader. I don't advocate for day traders, and I don't sell options. Nothing wrong with options, but I don't do any of that. I buy and I hold. So I'm telling you, if you're in it for the long term, you're okay. Relax. All right. You got your own unique set of goals and own unique set of circumstances. But whatever you do, be patient. Right? Be patient. Right? I want to give you that up front because I know that the stock is tumbling and you're thinking, oh my gosh, is it going to go to 70? Is it going to go to, 75, 80, 90? What's it going to go to? Right? You can learn a lot by looking at this one stock in terms of the stock market. Right? Obviously, figure out what your financial situation is, your financial goals. This is why I tell you to strategize, 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 right? Make sure you have good goals. Make sure you understand what's happening with the stock. Make sure you understand what your risk tolerance level and how you plan to handle any losses that may come up because of this. Are you going to chill, relax? Don't look at it every day. You don't have to follow the stock every moment, right? If you own a bunch of shares, you know, your risk increases the more you don't know. Your risk sort of increases, right? So this is why it's important, guys. This stock is really, you could do a master class on this particular stock because of all the ups and downs and issues and problems and possible geopolitical pressures that are on it. And everybody manipulating, not manipulating, sudden rise, great cash flow. The numbers look wonderful, incredible exponential growth in terms of top line revenue, you name it. Yes, a little larger than normal PE ratio, but to be expected somewhat in a volatile sector like technology, but also forward-looking PE is a little bit lower. It looks great. Also, the AI boom. Do you believe in AI in terms of demand and what the larger customers and also soon-to-be competitors with Nvidia is doing? All these different aspects are working. But if you don't understand this stuff, guys, as I said last week, you can get you an ETF and keep this thing very simple. Get you an ETF that has Nvidia as a nice share, a nice chunk of it, 6, 7, 8, 10, 15% of it, and make this thing easy. Make it easy. You don't have to be super duper complicated. Let me go to the chat, guys, see what we got here. Boom, boom, boom. No, I'm gonna keep on rolling. If you're just buying a stock like Nvidia because everyone else is buying it, you're basically gambling. Let me say that. You're not researching, you're not considering risk. If you're just buying Nvidia because everybody else is buying Nvidia, please do yourself a favor. Don't invest money like that again. You might as well could have took your $10,000 and went to the casino because you're just gambling. But if you know what you're investing in, you've done your research, you've prepared yourself mentally in terms of what you plan to do, what you plan not to do, you've got a strategy, you know what your core beliefs are, you understand the AI and data center space, and you've also taken all these things into consideration before you bought the stock. And then you didn't just buy one stock, you bought a number of stocks so you could kind of hedge your losses because you understand risk. Then you're investing. Right? Remember, you're not just buying a stock because you saw Kramer or somebody come on YouTube or what. You bought a stock because you did your research and you want to invest in that company because you have a set criteria and it fit into your criteria. Doesn't matter if it's AMD, if it's Broadcom, if it's Palantir, if it's Nvidia. This is the way you got to look at stocks, particularly a stock like Nvidia, because of all the volatility you see there, right? So let's talk about the DOJ. The Department of Justice basically has shown they kind of had some issues with Nvidia's potential dominance in the areas as it relates to AI and semiconductors and data centers, right? And perhaps they're thinking there could be some antitrust issues because obviously Nvidia is a major player in the semiconductor space, right? what is it, 80 or 90% share? Is it that's their share of the market, either in semiconductors or data centers, right? But they also dominate in the GPU space too. We know that, graphic processors units, right? So it's everywhere. And as we talked about a lot of times on this channel, Nvidia is literally everywhere. There's some links to other videos in the description box here on YouTube. But it's raised some concerns, obviously, and this is not new. It happens all the time. It's raised concerns from the Department of Justice, right? Why? Because of perhaps some monopoly or monopolistic type of practices, right? Now, there's nothing wrong. Let's clear this up. Nothing wrong with being a monopoly. Yep, I said it. There's nothing wrong with being a monopoly. Nothing wrong with dominating your business, dominating your competition. But when you do it so successfully at such a high stake, high level, like Nvidia has done with something so expensive as the AI boom that's upcoming, DOJ takes notice of you. Federal Trade Commission, FTC, takes notice of you, right? And what they're looking at is not that you're a monopoly, but they're looking at, are you violating any of the antitrust laws? Are you using the monopoly illegally, so to speak, right? And so Nvidia has, they've done what we want all businesses to do. They've also done a lot of acquisitions, and there's an acquisition coming up that we'll talk about. But when you do it that way, guess what? Here comes the government. Ask AT&T in the 1980s, right? Here comes the government. Looking, and was it Southwestern Bell? But here comes the government. Government doesn't want, okay, chips are very, very sensitive, very, very important. So the government pays attention. The government's not going to pay attention to you monopolizing the hat industry, right? Because hats have nothing to do with the government's security, right? Or cybersecurity attacks, or the government's autonomy, or the government's information flow of information. Hats don't have it. So the government ain't going to trip on you if you have 90% of the hat market. Okay. But when you have 90% of the communications market, like AT&T, or 90% of the chip making industry, like Nvidia, that becomes an issue. So the government doesn't want only certain companies controlling chips, because then that one company like Nvidia can do what? They can do what the OPEC plus countries do to oil, right? What do the OPEC plus countries do to oil? They control supply. They can restrict supply, right? And so if they restrict supply, that increases demand, and that's sort of price. That's why America, I won't say America doesn't like OPEC plus, but America is shut out of OPEC plus. OPEC plus is just companies that produce the oil that want to control the supply of the oil. So they formed OPEC, and then later they formed OPEC plus with other countries. So when you are a monopoly in a very, very important area like chips, then you can restrict supply. That will increase demand. And when demand goes up, prices can go up, or they can take supply to a level where they can ultimately lock out competitors and raise prices. There's a lot of problems. I know we don't get into all the economics, but there's a lot of problems with a company owning and monopolizing, so to speak, chips, data centers, AI, all right? Because remember, governments use technology, and AI is a part of technology built on top of existing technology, right? So the government is watching Nvidia and other companies, supposedly, which I'm pretty sure they are. They're watching these companies. Back in 2022, DOJ had some concerns about Nvidia when they was acquiring some other company, some other major semiconductor company, because Nvidia has bought companies along the way, right? And you know what happens when you're buying companies along the way? Looks like you're trying to have a monopoly, obviously, but you're doing just doing good business, but that's what happens. So the DOJ fears some of these acquisitions that could maybe, harm the competition level in the semiconductor industry, et cetera, right? So they're looking at them, right? I think in 2022 there was a big one that ultimately was it 27 million or something like that. Nvidia didn't they decided not to do that one because of the DOJ. But this concern is part of the DOJ's broader, bigger picture at the tech industry, especially AI at data centers and cloud computing, all that stuff, whatever it could be, right? So antitrust folks, they're worried that, and think that I read an article that said they're worried. Let me just see if I can pull that up so I can get the right wording here. What are they worried about? Why do they care? Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Here it is right here. Antitrust officials are worried that Nvidia will make it harder for customers to switch to rival suppliers. If you know anything about Nvidia, when they plug you into a system with data centers, they equip you to be able to handle Nvidia's upcoming products in 2 or 3 years. So that's one of the issues that DOJ says is that Nvidia is making it harder for customers to switch to rival suppliers and punish those that don't only use Nvidia AI chips. So, there's an upcoming acquisition, I think a planned acquisition from Nvidia from a place called Run AI, and I think that's one of the issues they have. So, these are all broader regulatory questions. So we can understand why the DOJ is taking a look at Nvidia, right? It just increases the eyes on Nvidia in terms of monopoly type practices that may violate antitrust laws, right? So that's what's going on. That's why the DOJ wants to take a look at Nvidia, right? It has great success with all of its products, right? It had some issues with some other rivals in terms of its chips and all that good stuff, right? But look, I think I showed you guys a chart last week. There were like 5 or 6 companies, maybe 7 companies that was almost 45% of Nvidia's customer base. And that's something else that people sort of are a little bit alarmed about. But places like Microsoft and Meta, et cetera, Microsoft and Meta, they both spend about 40% of their budget for hardware that's affiliated, hardware and software that's affiliated with Nvidia, right? So this is what's happening. So the Justice Department reportedly, Bloomberg News reported yesterday that the Justice Department, DOJ, had issued a subpoena to Nvidia and a few other companies as it starts to probe into Nvidia. But here's the problem with that. Let me just pull up this article real quick. Maybe you guys can read this article with me. Here's the problem with that. And this was all over the news yesterday. Like this was like a really big deal. What? The DOJ? Oh my gosh, what's happening? What did the DOJ? Why is the DOJ messing with Nvidia? Blah, blah, blah. But let me share my screen with you. Today, a couple of hours ago, it came out where Nvidia came out and said they did not receive an antitrust subpoena from the DOJ. This story is on CNBC. Is it CNBC? Yep, CNBC. Right? This story is all over. You can find it anywhere now. Nvidia denied reports that it had received a subpoena from the Department of Justice over antitrust concerns. It says that quote from them, we've inquired with the U.S. Department of Justice and have not been subpoenaed. Nonetheless, we're happy to answer any questions regulators may have about our business. So on Wednesday today, Nvidia denied reports it received a subpoena from the Department of Justice. Right? Bloomberg reported yesterday that Nvidia had received a subpoena causing the stop, which may have caused the stock to slip in after hours trading. This is why I tell you there's some fishy stuff going on. Remember a few weeks ago when they had the whole deal about the delay in the Blackwell and all that and how that fishy stuff, right? The chip maker shares had already given up nearly 10% during regular trading yesterday. While the report did not specify a reason for regulators to be interested in Nvidia, the company's recent rise has been directly tied to its dominance in AI for data centers, years before competitors AMD and Intel started taking the category seriously. Not to mention, Intel for the year is down like 59% for the year. Intel is struggling big time. AMD has seen a few struggles as well. Nvidia has more than 80% of the data center AI chip market. Nvidia wins on merit as reflected in our benchmark results and value to customers, and customers can choose whatever solution is best for them. That's what Nvidia told CNBC. And I have a bunch of other articles, but needless to say, guys, Nvidia has come out now today in the last few hours and denied the fact that they were subpoenaed, right? So why did Bloomberg give this deal yesterday and talk about it? Well, here's the deal. There's two different types of subpoenas that, from my research, and also Bloomberg came back and sort of later this afternoon and sort of explained this or said this differently. Nvidia received what's called a civil investigative demand, what they call a CID, right? Which is sometimes referred to as a subpoena, but it's not quite a subpoena, right? And I'm going to pull this up, guys, so I can read you what the difference is. Let's see. So the Nvidia received a civil investigative demand requesting details about its business and its Run AI acquisition. So let me read the difference between this civil investigative demand versus a subpoena. This is where Bloomberg got it wrong, right? So a CID is used in a civil investigation, whereas a subpoena could be used either civilly or in criminal matters, and a CID usually is served before a lawsuit or court proceeding is filed. So a CID is some type of, it's what some people refer to as an administrative subpoena, right? That allows the federal government, DOJ in this matter, to request extraordinary amounts of information from a company without going through any of the formal court procedures. And that company can comply accordingly. So I hope that clears up the conclusion. Did the DOJ subpoena Nvidia? No, not with a full-blown subpoena, but with a CID, a civil investigative demand. Demand, interesting, without going deeper. So nevertheless, for a major news outlet, a major financial news outlet like Bloomberg, to mess that up and confuse the world is troubling. Not only did it confuse the world, but it could have played a role in Nvidia losing $279 billion worth of market cap, which the largest of any day in the history of the stock market. It could have resulted in that. This is how fragile this whole thing is. And this is why you got to be super duper careful about, just because you read it from a major news outlet. I've seen many mistakes that major news outlets will say, and they'll come back. Most times they'll come back and retract it with a tiny little piece of statement that you can't even hardly read on the same article that's buried somewhere. But you've already read the article, taken off, and made an important decision about your personal finances and your investments already when they come back and give this correction that you can't see or wasn't advertised, right? So for a major news outlet like Bloomberg to make that fundamental mistake and not clarify that yesterday, but to put it out, and not only this is how strong this is. Every other news outlet got it from Bloomberg, and then they reported it, and it was all over the internet, YouTube, news, it was everywhere. Oh my gosh, DOJ is coming after Nvidia. Next thing you know, it's not a full-blown subpoena, but it could have led to the drop in Nvidia. This is how, to me, guys, you got to be very, very careful with this stock. It is so big. It's growing so much, so fast, with so many different retail employers, retail folks, that there could be some shenanigans going on, some fishy stuff going on, right? So I want you guys to be careful about that. Thank you so much for the super chat, Kim. Keem? I got you. I remember you, Keem. Fortunately, this news doesn't change the fundamentals of a good company like Nvidia. Hold the line, peeps. Absolutely. Thank you so much for the super chat, Keem. I appreciate you more than you know. Thanks for dropping that in here. But you're right. Hold the line, basically. Chewy, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate you. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. Mrs. Moore, put it up in there. Thank you so much, Mrs. Moore. I appreciate you. And Mrs. Moore, I appreciate you for holding down the chat for me as well. We got one thing I like about doing these live streams, guys. Thank you so much, Mrs. Moore. One of these things I appreciate about these live streams is the fact that we got a lot of smart people in these live streams, a lot of solid investors who are some of you guys are new, some of you guys are intermediate and been doing it for quite a while, but the information you guys share with one another throughout these live streams are really important, and it's really helping people. So continue to keep that chat going. Let's see here. Gary said, thanks, guys. I'm holding for at least 10 years and just dollar cost averaging. Yeah, makes a lot of sense to me. He says, let's see here. Because Bloomberg want the stock down quickly under 100. Perhaps. I don't know. The media pushing fake news. I'm shocked. Don't be shocked because it happens in a lot of ways, right? Let me send you my cash app. Boom, boom, boom. Let's see. It was kind of the whales were selling the whole day and retailers found out after market. Yep, you got to be careful about that, guys. As I said before, when you look at the top stocks, that the big boys, big ladies, the super investors, they're, Nvidia's like number 40 or number 50 on their list. They're not all in on Nvidia like a lot of retail folks are, right? So you got to really think about that and appreciate that, guys. Thank you so much, Oatmeal Pie. Appreciate you. Love the name too, by the way. Oatmeal Pie. I appreciate that. Hey, Chewy, thank you so much. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you more than you know. Chewy's matching. Appreciate that super chat, Chewy. Thank you so much for dropping that in again. I try to give the super chats soon after I get them, but we'll see. Listen, Panama Jack, something to get people to sell off the shares, very possibly. But be careful. Here's my warning to you guys. Nvidia stock is tumbling. I get it. But if you hold the line and you believe that AI and you've done your research and you understand it's a good solid stock, which it is, I think King pointed that out. It's a good stock, good numbers, all that great stuff. You don't have to participate in a lot of this volatility, right? I mean, you can, or you can just buy and dollar cost average into it if you believe it's the right stock for you and it fits your entire, give me a word. It fits your strategy. Let's make it a nice word. Strategy, right? For the long haul. So that is what happened. So did the DOJ subpoena Nvidia? It subpoenaed them, but not really. It gave them a CID, which is not really a full-blown subpoena. And you might wake up and read this news tomorrow. You can read it tonight. But I wanted to clarify that because I know I have a lot of folks that enjoy Nvidia. Guys, don't forget here, description box below. Check out if you got a question for me, drop a Q in there. I'll try to answer this real quick. But I always got to give a shout out to Mint Mobile. Also in the description, I use it. Great, excellent, premium wireless services. Also in the description box of this video, there's a link to join me over on Instagram, a link to join me over on Facebook, whatever social media you are. Social Smart Money Bro is there. Also in the description box below here on YouTube, there's your 24 Laws of Money, a free ebook from me to you, giving you the 24 laws and principles that helped me go from a negative $30,000 net worth at the age of 30, grown and broke, to a seven-figure net worth today. I didn't do anything fancy. I'm not anything special. Nothing that anybody watching this can't do. I'm just matter of fact, I'm frugal. I don't listen. If I did it, you can do it. And that free ebook in the description box here on YouTube explains it to you. How the ways of thinking that transformed my behaviors. Because anything you do comes out of your brain. Starts here, and then it manifests itself in your behaviors and habits. So the 24 laws of money is about thinking different with money and about money. Because when you start thinking different, you start doing different. And when you start doing different, your outcomes become different. Right? That's the whole point of the free ebook I got down there. So check that out in the description box below. Also, if you haven't subscribed, please feel free to subscribe. If you know anybody who's looking at Nvidia as a serious investment, thinking about it, maybe they own some shares, maybe they don't, send this link to this video to them so they can check it out. Just real basic information. And if you do check it out or you're watching this on a replay, make sure you look at the chat. Great stuff in the chat. All right. Appreciate that. Yeah, hit the thumbs up button for me, guys. You got to hit that thumbs up button for me. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate it. Tap that thumbs up button for me so this thing gets out to more and more people. Be careful with this stock. Be careful with Nvidia. Now, I own, full disclosure, I own some Nvidia. Not a ton, but just some, because most of my investments is ETFs. But we do have some over in single stocks, a number of single stocks, not just Nvidia, but Nvidia is one. And I have a nice small chunk of investment in Nvidia. But I ain't watching Nvidia every day. I dollar cost average into Nvidia. I see Nvidia's at 106 today. Great. Do I have a little cash over here? I'm also, one of the things I'm doing, let me share this with you guys, full transparency. One of the things I like to do, because I know September is a volatile month, and I also know we have some volatility coming because of the uncertainty of the upcoming election. So because I know that up front, that we have volatility right now in the tech stock and in other stocks, not all the stocks, a lot of them are doing well, but we have a little volatility. September's usually a down month. October, usually a down month. But guess what? The election is going to cause some volatility as well because of the fact that there's uncertainty. When there's uncertainty, the market responds funny. It doesn't like uncertainty. So I also have a chunk sitting in cash, right? Or something like a fixed, right? A fixed equity, something that's fixed, cash, bond, whatever, is sitting there for when we have this volatility. So not only am I dollar cost averaging in, but I'm doing what I call dollar cost average plus. And dollar cost average plus means dollar cost average. Woo, big old dip. Boom. Drop a chunk in there when the dip happens. So this is part of my strategy in terms of investing. So you know where I'm coming from, right? Just full disclosure. Thank you so much, Nigel, for the super chat. I appreciate you more than you know, man. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I am going to look up Winnipeg on the map because I want to know exactly, like, where is Winnipeg? I know Canada has these big old provinces that are shaped like rectangles that are not sideways, but long rectangles on the map. So I got to figure out, where is Winnipeg? What's the major? Is Quebec the major capital of Winnipeg, I think? So thank you so much, Nigel. I got off on a tangent. I'm a map guy. I love maps. So thank you so much, Nigel. I appreciate it. When I was a school teacher, guys, I taught geography. And so I really, really like geography and maps and all that. Sometimes for fun, I just get on Google Earth and just roll around on my computer, right, to see where I'm at. Oh, that'd be a great place to go. Yes. So thank you so much, Nigel. Again, I appreciate the Cash App more than you know. So I wanted to give you guys a full disclosure about what I'm doing. Okay, yes, it's Quebec. Okay, fantastic. So I want to give you guys a full disclosure about what I have in terms of Nvidia. So these videos, I'm talking to you guys, investors, but I'm also talking to myself as well, right? Because I have a small stake in Nvidia as well. And these are things that I have to think about. But Nvidia really fit into my core beliefs I have a stock checklist that I developed for me based on what I want to do and what I like and my risk tolerance. And I suggest that if you don't have one, maybe you can create one. What do you look for in stocks when you buy individual stocks? You can create one for you, right? So normally September is a down month. October, not so much, but we have this election coming up, and the election coming up is going to cause more uncertainty, and that's why you got to be careful. And for me, I'm just waiting on the sidelines. Dollar cost average. Woo, big dip. Boom, let me jump in. Dollar cost average. Whoa, look at that dip. boom, jump in. Dollar. And I have a stock watch list of 20 different stocks that I'm watching. So that's what I do. That's kind of how I handle it. All right. Chewy with the big one. Chewy is, man, I appreciate the super chat, Chewy. Are you guys doing a little bidding war in the chat section here? Sounds maybe am I missing something here? You guys doing a bidding war out there? Appreciate it so much, Chewy. Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Somebody says September is hunting season for me on the market. Jay, makes good sense to me. When you're hunting down these. Miss Reynolds, the last quarter of the year is usually a downturn. It seems my hubby has noticed. He's a smart man. Yep, usually the downturn, especially in an election year. Guys, I don't know if you know this or not, but the average stock market return during an election year is lower than the average stock market return in the non-election year leading up to an election year. Traditionally, for the last 100 years. Do the research. So this is why right now we see the S&P 500 trade or the year-to-date S&P 500 is probably about what? 16, 17, 18%. There could be a possibility that changes based on past historical what happened during election years and the uncertainty that happens. Not to mention what the uncertainty that normally happens towards this last quarter, last of third quarter, early fourth quarter, typically year to year. So guys, got to be listening, got to be watching those things and look for trends and understand that we could see the stock market, even though the Fed is going to probably lower rates by maybe 25 or 50 basis points coming up here shortly when the FOMC meets. They're going to lower rates. But listen, it's going to take a while. There's something called lag time. And it takes a while for what the Fed does when they implement policy like lowering the rates or raising the rates. It takes a while for that to trickle down to us retail consumers, et cetera. So even though they'll lower the rate here shortly and they'll lower it 2 or 3 times this year, that may not start affecting us until next year. January, February, March, first quarter or second quarter of next year. We'll see, right? But the point is all these things are working as investors. That's what this channel is all about, trying to get us hipped to what's going on. Thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate it, Keem. More than you know. This is a great group, competent and respectful. I like that, Keem. Absolutely, guys. Man, whoa, Chewy's coming back with another one, and Mrs. Moore went in. Oh, thank you guys so much. More than you know. I appreciate you. This whole channel wouldn't be what it was without the help of folks like Chewy, Mrs. Moore, right? Clint Perry, all you guys. Appreciate it, Chewy. Appreciate it. I only vote green. Somebody said I only vote green. This is how one of my favorite YouTube. Hey, thanks, Z Owens. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, I like to engage with you guys because this channel wouldn't be what it is. Look, for a year and a half, I did lives when I had like 3 people in the chat. Dead serious, 3 people. And now that we get people in here and we're respectful to each other, we got a lot of information. This is what the internet's all about, what it can be about when we're doing this thing right, right? So again, I appreciate you guys. Mrs. Moore, thank you for holding down the fort. Thanks, Z. Thanks, Skywalk. Thank you, Real Talk. Thank you, Ben Frank. Thank you, Chewy. Thank you, Orlando. Jimenez was here. Let's see, Kamala, 44% tax of 44% is for all working classes. She has destroyed California and promised sweet words and deceived millions. I'm not going to go real heavy on the politics on here, Orlando, but you definitely could be on to something. I'm not going to take it away from you, especially if you live in California. You know better than me. Alicia, thank you so much. Jay Third, appreciate you being here, guys. Nigel in the house. Oh, Manitoba. Nigel, you giving me some homework for tonight. Listen, I'm going to let you guys go. Remember, patience with a volatile stock like Nvidia. Be patient, guys. Don't panic, whatever you do. Don't fly off the handles. Don't get nervous. None of that stuff. Please be patient with this stock and do your research. Make sure it fits in. You can always go to ETFs. Please check out that video in the description box naming my top 9 ETFs that I like that hold Nvidia. 2 or 3 of those I actually own myself. So that video is in the description box below. Please check that out. Don't forget to check out the other things I have in the description box, guys. I appreciate you being here more than you know. I'm back at you tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central Time. I got another topic I want to really address, I want to hone in on tomorrow. So, hey, again, as always, as I always say, guys, the absolute best person who's going to take care of the old you is that young you. Guys, do me a big favor. Take good care of yourself and take care of other people. Until the next video, peace.